Hey YouTube, it's Tams, the Wicked Witch. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So, as you can tell by the name of the video, we are celebrating Ostara and it starts this weekend, obviously. It starts from the 19th to the 23rd and yeah, we've got some really nice weather for it, I'm hoping, here in Essex in the UK. Yeah, sorry about the hair, no hat today. So yeah, we're celebrating the Spring Equinox, the signs of spring. It's kind of almost here, isn't it? We're getting the warmer weather, the first signs of crocus, and you know, those kind of spring flowers are starting to, we're seeing them away on the waysides and in the fields, and we're seeing flowers appearing, and it's starting to get a little bit greener as we head towards Beltane. So the festival of Ostara, the Spring Equinox, is actually the second spring festival of 3. So you have Imolc on the 2nd of February, then Ostara 19 to the 23rd, and the third one being Beltane, of course. And Beltane for me kind of is the beginning of the real warm weather. I mean, last year we were extremely spoilt because we had that mad warm weather in the lockdown, didn't we? So it's not as warm this year, and it doesn't seem to be the same. And it's a lovely day out today. I've got great light in here. As you can see, the sun's out, and yeah, it would have been lovely to have gone for a nice walk today. It's extremely busy out where I live, so it's this kind of time you want to be going to Epping Forest and having a nice walk around. It's beautiful up there if you could park. Yeah, very nice. So it's funny because the ancient Celts actually didn't celebrate Ostara. They were obviously in tune with the seasons and what was happening at that time, and I suppose in a way they would have been kind of celebrating and being involved with what was happening, you know, with the fertility and the animals beginning to mate and breed and the greenery coming back, flowers, you know, crops going, preparing to plant the crops and things like that. Some vegetables have already been planted or will be planted soon. But they didn't actually celebrate this festival. And all over the world, there are so many different themes and stories for Ostara goddesses and gods. Mainly the goddesses and who it was named after and who this, and there's so many, I'm not going to go into it because there's so many different ideas and so many different people have different views on was it named after this, and I'm not going to go into that. I'm just going to go over the basic Ostara festival and what we can do, how we can set up the altar and things like that, because there is a lot of different opinions. We've got the Wiccan opinions, the pagan opinions, you've got your basic pagan witches opinions, you've got all different kinds of witches. The eclectic witches have kind of a different view on things. So everybody's got their own views, which is what I like about witchcraft, because it is nice. Everybody can do what they want to do, but there are a lot of views on the goddess side of things and was it named after, and one lot say yeah and one lot say no, so we're not going to go into it. So yeah, the Spring Equinox, it's a time when the balance between light and dark finally starts to come around again. Everything begins to come lighter and greener and fresher. We've got flowers, daffodils, crocuses, spring flowers. Things are starting to grow. We're starting to see the odd leaf appear, and then towards the end of March, April, it's getting greener and greener. Then we'll be getting blossoms on the trees and things like that, and it's a lovely time because winter is now gone, and the winter seasons are now kind of going away, and hopefully we won't get Easter snow like we have had, and it will be bloody cold again. Yeah, it's a time when the earth warms. The earth begins to warm up, and the goddess is in her maiden stage, and she is fertile, and it's a time for the rabbits and the hares. They start breeding. Obviously, always at Ostara, you'll see the rabbits and eggs, and that's the breeding. And of course, that's where your Easter eggs come from. Again, pagan tradition, stolen, and Christianity took over and obviously changed everything for themselves, how they wanted to do it. And it all comes from pagan tradition. So your Easter bunny and your eggs and all that, it's all fertility and breeding, and not just for people, but it's more for the animals and for the rabbits, you know, and that's where your Easter bunny comes from. You know, mad as a March hare, you know, it's the time for hares when they're breeding, and lots of the animals are. So it's that kind of rebirth. It's a time for purification and renewal, for sorting out balances with yourself, for getting rid of old habits and bringing in new. It's a perfect time for spells to banish old habits and to get yourself sorted and start afresh for the coming warmer weather. The winter darkness is starting to go, and it's a time to really kick in some good spell work and some good shadow work. And because it's warmer, it's brighter, we're more cheerful. It's very depressing in the winter, and you can imagine going back into old times when, you know, now we pick up an iPhone and look at the internet and go and buy something on eBay and watch some crap on Netflix. Hundreds and hundreds of years ago, they didn't have anything, and it was literally do or die, wasn't it? They would have been freezing cold waiting for this spring. So it was such a big deal to these people. So first of all, we're all very lucky with, you know, we've got food, and we're not relying on the earth. We are, but we actually aren't. We aren't planting and worrying about our veg crops. Some of us are, but we don't starve if it doesn't grow. So we're very lucky in that sense, kind of very selfish in some ways, that some people don't even acknowledge the fact that they've just bowled into Tesco's or Sainsbury's and done their shopping. Some people don't even think about it, especially the youngsters of nowadays. They don't really have a clue. Everything's iPhone and Ugg boots, and you know, it's a funny old time. And so yeah, you know, the older pagan days, it would have been, you know, really, this would have been a really strong time for, you know, people would have been looking forward to that green and the warmth coming back, and the green and the plants and those signs of spring, and then summer coming and the plants growing and the animals breeding. If the animals don't breed, you haven't got anything to eat. So yeah, it was a real struggle for them. The wheel of the year really had meaning in a different way to what our pagan wheel of the year has meaning to us. We celebrate and we have an altar and we do all this stuff, but it literally was do or die for those people's wheel of the year, if you get what I mean. So yeah, very strange. The Celts didn't actually celebrate it according to, you know, to writings and papers and ancient paperwork and mythology and things like that. They didn't celebrate it. So obviously all around the world it's celebrated slightly different. So for us, and for most pagan witches, whether it's Wiccan or other, we have an altar, we have pastel colours, pale colours, pinks and blues and yellows, and kind of your Easter egg colours, you know, which I suppose now are quite bright. But, you know, when you have your kind of little Easter egg sets and that in Tesco's, if you ever look, they're always pale blue and yellow. Those are your Ostara colours, I feel, yellow and green and pale blue and things like that. You can set your altar up with some coloured eggs. You can decorate eggs. You could have little Easter eggs if you wanted on your altar. Rabbits and hares, little statues, little paintings, lots of fresh flowers. I always like to buy some daffs. I'll be getting them in the morning because they didn't actually have any in Tesco's this morning. When I went down, I was going to have some on the altar at the back, but they didn't have any, and I needed to do this video. So, but I always have some daffodils or some little crocuses if they haven't got any. They didn't have anything. Yeah, some spring flowers, some nice coloured altar cloths. If you do the different coloured cloths, you could have yellow or white or pale blue or pale pink, or, you know, that kind of thing. Green, I like green. I think green for Ostara is such an important colour because of the bringing back that greenery that we've missed through those cold times. Obviously foods for feasts for Ostara, asparagus, spring greens, sprouts, eggs, chocolate eggs, and making your own kind of cakes and things like that, to have like an Ostara feast perhaps after your ritual. crystals. Now, everybody's got their own idea of crystals, and personally, you can use whatever you like, but I do feel that these are associated with Ostara for me. So quartz crystal and rose quartz and angelite and tiger's eye and serpentine and calcite, and there was another one, and it came to me a minute ago and I never wrote it down on that list. It will come to me in a minute. There was another one. Bugger. Green aventurine. Green aventurine and green jade are for luck and for money. Okay, they're very good with it. And when you're doing your kind of rebirth, renewals, getting rid of bad habits and that kind of thing, and are starting a positive for Ostara magic, you want something like that to boost up your spell work or your kind of power thoughts or whatever it is that you're doing for yourself or for somebody else. And I think that those two would be a real good, a real good kick to any kind of spell work or anything like that. So we have lots and lots of different things you can do with the rituals. We can have it all set up. You can obviously, I like to just have I always have my goddess and god altar, which is behind me, Equinox and Gaia. Morrigan's on there, the crone's on there. It's mainly aimed at kind of Mother Nature, Gaia, goddess, in that kind of way. As you can see, I've got Morrigan on there as well. Morrigan being my main goddess that I work with, Equinox being the main god that I work with, and separately I work with Nuit and Set, who are Egyptian. They're not on this altar, they have their own altar in the corner. I don't have anything, they don't mix, the two don't mix at all. So I also work with other goddesses and gods, but Morrigan is my main goddess who I work with all the time. She has the big altar on the shelf. And then my kind of goddess and god altar is Equinox and Gaia. So for the Mother Nature aspect, the Gaia aspect, the earth, the life, the Gaia bringing life to the earth, warmth to the earth, fertility, and the new beginnings to bring back the warmer weather for the growth, for the rebirth of the animals and all that kind of thing. So yeah, you could do some really nice paintings and some flowers. There's so many things you can do. You can put water in your cauldron and have lots of flowers floating. You could just have flowers in your cauldron, nice big vase of flowers. There's lots of things you can do. I'm so limited on this little unit for space. I've got so many ornaments and things. I don't seem to have room to do like a big, when I win the lottery, I always say this, and I have a great big temple room, I shall have all my stuff in there, but in the lounge area I will just have a seasonal altar, and I could decorate it and have just seasonal, every time we go into the next one, I can change it on. It would be amazing because I'd have room to do it, but it really is down to space. I apologise for my DVDs that we're going to watch this weekend. I mean, not all of them, obviously. A bit of Buffy and a bit of Halloween, sorry, in the background, ruining my ivy and sticks. Yeah, lots of things. Go for nice walks. We can meditate. We can do some art. We can do poetry. We can play music. We can just sit outside in the sun and be quiet. And just sit, watch the trees. I love sitting in Epping Forest. When it's quiet, it's not quiet up there at the minute. There's so many people furloughed, everyone's off, everyone's walking everywhere, but just sitting up there. I've been up there at 6 in the morning and just sat and listened, and the crows are squawking and the deers are running through, and if you're lucky you'll see a massive stag. My mum and dad had 2 stags in the back garden, and so a load of deers just passing through, because they live in Epping Forest, and yeah, right, lovely. Just to see the animals. I love seeing all the birds. I've got to go and feed my birdies in a minute because they've just got all their seed again. They're costing me a fortune, but it's just lovely to see all the birds darting in and out of the hedges. There's a bit of green coming back on the hedges, so they've got a bit of places to hide. It's just a lovely time. There's many stories to do with Ostara and estrogen, and there's a story. I'm not going to go into them all. Everyone's got their own different opinions on it, and there's a few things that I think, but mainly it's just a time for the rebirth, to bring back the warmer weather, the hares, everyone's starting to breed, all the animals are starting to breed, the earth's just warmer, and it's just a nicer feel to go out and have a walk. And that sun coming back, you know, in Wiccan tradition you've got the sun as the god and the kind of the moon as the goddess. So the sun's shining bright, the goddess is the earth's warming up, which is the goddess, you know, fertility, giving birth. She's in her maiden phase. It is lovely. It is a lovely it's a lovely time. So I hope you all have a beautiful Ostara. I hope you all get out in the country and have some walks and have a lovely little ritual and enjoy celebrating your Ostara weekend. And I'll see you all real soon. Take care of yourselves. Ta-da.